Hello again. Thousands of supporters are making their way into Giant Stadium outside Pretoria for the launch of the EFF's election manifesto. Leader Thulasizwe Simelane will present the EFF's list of hopes and promises for the national polls due in a few months. We have a team on the ground to bring you all the latest details and analysis. Leading that broadcast is ENCA anchor Thulasizwe Simelane, who joins us now live from Soshanguve. And Thulas, I suppose the EFF known for their radical ideas. The question today is, how radical will radical be?
Well, you know, Tembegile, I mean, if you go by what the EFF leader had to say in his speech at the gala dinner last night, you can expect quite a lot of radical ideas. I mean, think about this idea of free education for all, which is one of the cardinal pillars of the EFF. Last night, when he was sort of arguing to sort of support that idea, talking about how the state in an EFF government would provide all the facilities needed and the resources needed and ensure that every child is in school. But if the child is not in school, if the child is old enough to be arrested, then he would want to see the child arrested. And if the child is not old enough to be arrested, then we arrest the parents who are failing to take the child to school. Just by way of example of how radical you can go. And also, of course, the issues to do with land expropriation without compensation, and to go even the further step of nationalizing the land. Let me tell you how it's looking at the Giant Stadium. The speakers are blaring. We are truly within the build-up towards the launch of the manifesto. The people have started arriving, clad in their red colors of the EFF, taking their seats on the stands here. It's not a big venue. It's a small venue, actually. So you can expect that it will be packed once all the people that are expected to come through actually arrive here. I have been seeing in the horizon behind us there buses lining up, a whole lot of buses around the Giant Stadium here in Soshanguve, making their way to the drop-off point where the people who will be attending are actually being dropped off. And there's been a bit of excitement as well in one of the marquees that have been set up here, people dancing up a storm. Ringo Madlingos, the legendary musician, of course, a staunch EFF supporter, has released an album. I'm told he collaborates with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. I'm not really sure. I've not heard it, but they've been playing it for quite some time, and people have been dancing inside the marquee there, including the elderly, really getting down. Let's get down then ourselves to business. I'm joined by the EFF National Chairperson, Dali Mpofu. Thank you so much for coming through, Dali. So
thank you, Thulas.
Let's talk about what people can expect from a policy perspective from this manifesto launch. I was saying a bit earlier on that the 7 cardinal pillars sort of give us a skeleton, right, of what we're working with. It gives us the character of the EFF. But what are some of the plans that you think you'll be pushing forward to achieve some of the ideals you have in the cardinal pillars, especially given that some of your ideas are already being sort of adopted in various ways by the ANC? Well, you are helping them. It's not really theft if you're working together.
No, thank you, Thulas. That is quite correct. Actually, the structure of the manifesto, you'll find, follows what you are saying. Because what we do, we have an overview by the president of the EFF, and then we have an overview of the cardinal pillars, a very short section. Then we have what one might call a diagnostic of the past 25 years, where we say what are the real issues that afflict this society. And that comes mainly from the consultations that we had leading up to this manifesto, because people were pouring their hearts out as to what are their frustrations, what would they like to see. Once we've done that, we then, I use the metaphor of going to the doctor. So we'll give you the diagnosis, and then the bulk, or 80 or 90% of the document, is then about the prescription. What should then happen? What should happen around land, what should happen on jobs, what should happen on women empowerment, youth empowerment, the environment, corruption, crime, transport, infrastructure, those kinds of issues. We have some exciting, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. Some exciting.
Feel free to let the cat out of the bag. This is ENCA.
The cat
Where else would you want to do it?
Of course. But there are some exciting, new, innovative proposals that we make, for example, around the elections, how elections should be conducted. around how the country should be structured, a complete rethink of the constitutional structure, if you like. So you'll find that there are those expected issues, land. We are known for land, but there are other new, issues which come from research, but also which come from experience on the ground. Yeah,
that's quite interesting. That suggests to me that there's a bit of dissatisfaction with the way that our democracy is actually the way that it plays out.
Yeah.
Is it with the issue of the party-based system and the proportional representation system that we have?
No, not so much that. Remember, first of all, that this 25 years, in our view, is a place where you should calibrate and look back and say, okay, there was CODESA, there was this and the other, you were speculating, you put in certain measures. Have they worked? Maybe some of them have worked, but what has failed? And that has failed needs to be fixed. So, for example, the issue of the provinces. What purpose are they serving, really? How could you tinker with that structure? And what role should local government be playing vis-a-vis the central government? It's those kinds of issues.
Sure.
Are we top-heavy? The cabinet. Do we need such a big bloated cabinet, or do we need a functional team that can look at broader areas and that kind of thing?
Interesting. Realistically, Dali Mpofu, what are your expectations for this election? You did well. I mean, in your first election, 6% is really nothing to scoff at. And then going to local government elections, you went all the way to 8% and were located strategically in a number of municipalities where there was no outcome one way or another. Going into this election, with all the dynamics that have happened, there's no longer a Jacob Zuma element, which some would say benefited opposition parties, certainly in the last two elections that we've had. And you now have to contend with a situation where the ANC sees itself as having renewed itself, or in the process at least, of presenting an image that says it's renewing itself. How do you rank your chances?
No, first of all, it's a fantasy. The ANC actually does not exist. It's just an idea that we all hold, and some people hold dear because of the brand ANC. There's no organization there. It's finished. So it's a question of exposing that to the public, to say the ANC has served its purpose. Maybe it has done some great stuff, but it's time to retire the ANC and look forward to the future. And that's what we're going to be doing in the diagnostic, to show that this thing of renewal and unity is all just smokes and mirrors. There's only one ANC. For example, you hear they talk about 9 wasted years, and they say those are Zuma years. But those are Zuma and Ramaphosa years. What were we paying Ramaphosa for the past 9 years if it was only Zuma who wasted the 9 years? All of them were part of that waste. All of them were part of the 12 billion rand that was wasted on Busasa. All of them were part of supporting rampant corruption. So our message is that there's no good or bad ANC. The entire thing is rotten.
So, but how do you rank your chances then, given what you've just said?
Well, we rank our chances very high. Obviously, we don't enter a race. We enter a race to win. But, we are slaves of our people. So voting is talking. It's giving an expression. So we will listen to what our people are saying. If our people say, we've watched you for the past 5 years, we think you are now ready to be in government, we will say, what do you mean? Do you mean we must be in government alone with others, as they did in Johannesburg and Tshwane? And if that situation arises, once again, we will use our brains to maximize the gains for our people. It was the most difficult thing to decide what to do in 2016. But we are now sure that we did the right thing, because we used that kingmaker status, 10%, 11% in Tshwane, to better the lives of the workers, the cleaners, the people who are insourced,
Speaking of which, Julius Malema yesterday saying that by June, Tshwane will have an EFF mayor and EFF members of the mayoral committee. When we put that question to the Deputy Secretary General, Hlengiwe Mkhaliphi, she wasn't so forthcoming. She wasn't that committal. Will we have an EFF mayor in the next coming weeks in Tshwane?
Look, let me tell you one statement that is definite, and you can quote me on this come the day of the results. We are going to be in government by June.
In Tshwane?
Everywhere. We're going to be in government in certain or all of the provinces. We're going to be in government nationally. We're definitely going to be the government in Tshwane, because that is within our power. If we want to be in government in China, we can be government tomorrow. That's what our people have done. They've created a situation where we're able, should we wish to do so, to be part of government.
Finally, Dali, from a messaging perspective and sort of being understood by the electorate, how damaging are these many battles that you pick as the EFF from time to time? And some of what then transpires in the course of fighting these battles. For example, the whole situation with Pravin Gordhan and some of the statements that you were, sort of saying in the process of fighting that campaign, and also the fights you've had with the media. How damaging are they in terms of entrenching you as a party that believes in our constitutional democracy and the right to differ politically, the right for the media to exist and to probe, and to even probe yourselves as the EFF and some of your uncomfortable relationships?
No, it's not damaging at all. We don't want to pretend to be something we're not. What you see is what we get. We give you the story as it is. If you don't like our message, fine, go and vote for somebody else. Go and vote for corruption. Go and vote for racism. It's your choice. But we're not going to pussyfoot around issues of corruption in particular. When we were doing this damaging stuff on Jacob Zuma, all sorts of academic criticisms were made. But what has since happened? The country has changed. And what did our people say? In 2016, the only party that grew was the EFF. Even the polls that you get now, some of which you don't agree, all of them put the only party that is growing in South Africa is the EFF. Why? It is because what might be damaging to somebody sitting in an air-conditioned room is probably what our people want to hear. Because imagine if you've been sitting for 25 years waiting for a house or water, and you find that 12 billion rand has been spent. Are you going to be polite about it, or are you going to be angry and say it like it is? And so we give expression to the mood that we pick up on the ground, because as an organization we are on the ground. We speak to the poor, we speak to the petrol attendants, we speak to the security guards. We know their frustrations, and when we articulate them, whether it's in parliament, in court, in a march, we do it within the constitution. Nobody will ever find us breaking the constitution. We go to court, we go to parliament, we go to the streets. Yes, we do so robustly, but we do so within the framework of the constitution.
Right. Dali Mpofu, thank you so much. I have to let you go. That's the EFF's National Chairperson, Dali Mpofu, chatting to us and sort of giving us a glimpse. I don't know how much of that you caught, Thembekile. I certainly believe that we got more than a glimpse into what's to come in the EFF manifesto.